Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be testing out the ClawLab Tufting Gun H1. We're not only going to be testing it out, we're also going to be taking our piece and turning it into a backpack. So if you're looking for an overall review on the Tufting Gun, or you want to turn your piece into a product, we'll be doing that in this video. With all that being said, let's get started. And before we get to testing the gun, the first thing we're going to do is feed our fabric through the easy clamp frame. All you need to do is feed the fabric through the top and bottom bar, twist the knobs tight, and pull the levers down on the side. It gives you a perfect tautness every time, and you can also make adjustments as you go to retighten it. So once you have it nice and tight, we're going to move right along into adding the design. I actually don't have an art projector to put the image onto the fabric, so what I did was print my design off in sections, taped it together, and then I taped that to the back of the fabric. As you can see, mine was a little bit too tall to go vertically, so I just flipped it horizontally and taped it to the back. And the biggest thing you want to remember before you start tracing is that you reflected your image before you printed it, because what you see on this side is actually going to be reflected on the opposite side after tufting. And the last thing you want to do is mark each color within your design. Next, we're going to take a quick look at the gun, and as you can see, it's a very compact design. Going along with that compact design, it's also very easy to use. You have a power switch on the bottom of the handle, and you have a circle dial on the back to control the speed. That's pretty much all there is to it, so it's very easy for a beginner to jump in and start tufting right away. If this is your first time using the gun, I do recommend cranking the speed to the highest setting and then also designating an area on your cloth to do a few test runs. The yarn that comes with the kit, you can use one strand, but I found that when using 7-ounce acrylic, you want to use 2. And you'll want to do your own testing based on the weight and style yarn you're using. But overall, it was very easy to do all the line work and the filling with this gun. And the awesome thing is, I actually had no issues with the gun dethreading throughout this entire project, which saves time and a major headache. Since we're going to be turning this into a backpack, you want to save as much material as possible, so I'm going to be cutting at the top and the bottom of the frame. Now you can quickly get a better look at the quality this gun puts out. Personally, I think it stands up to most tufting guns on the market. If you do see any flaws, it's probably based on my technique. I'm fairly new to tufting. I know what looks good, but it's hard to achieve that top level quality without putting in a lot of practice. But anyways, moving on, we're going to flip it over to the back side and add our adhesive. I'm going to be using a TPU hot melt powder. It's available at ClawLab. It's a thermoset adhesive, so it cures when you apply heat. There's a lot of alternative carpet adhesives you can use, but I found this one cures very thin and it's easy to sew through. And if you are using this powder, the goal is to cover the entire surface area evenly. Since we will be sewing through these panels, you may want to do a lighter sprinkle because the more you cake on there, the thicker that adhesive layer is going to be. I found it's best to do a few test squares with the adhesive you're using just to make sure your sewing machine can handle the thickness. This powder does come with a scraper, so it's easy to move it around to get a nice even layer. You mainly want to make sure you cover every piece of yarn. To cure the adhesive, you'll need to apply heat. I'll be using the ClawLab heat press. It's an open design, so it's easy to move it around and press one section at a time. It also has a timer and vibrating features that are super helpful. And before you start pressing, you want to cover the back with parchment paper. Once you're ready, you can apply the heat, and I found that 288 Fahrenheit at 28 seconds worked very well. I noticed on the site they do recommend going up to 40 seconds, but I think it's really based on how much powder you're using. So again, this may be something you want to play around with before you take it to your actual design. I found it's best to use less powder at first because you can always add more after you cure the first layer. Or if you see a spot you missed, you can always go back and spot fill. After applying the heat, you're going to want to let it cool for up to 5 minutes before you peel off the parchment paper. Now you can take a look at it, add another layer of adhesive, or spot fill if needed. Compared to other glues, I really like how flexible and soft this powder turned out. It's going to make it so much easier to sew through because we're not only sewing through the pile, but we're also sewing through that adhesive. So the thinner and softer that layer is, the better it's going to be for your machine. Before we cut out the panels and start sewing, we want to first do a little bit of surface shearing. This step is optional, but I do recommend it for a clean finish. I'll be using the Easy Clip trimmers with the shearing guide. I just got this on Amazon. There's a lot of different options out there, but this is a great beginner tool. If you do have a lint brush, you'll want to brush your design before you start trimming. It's a quick way to clean up a lot of those loose ends, making it easier to shear. I'll be using the shearing guide on the first few passes. This helps get it nice and even, and you can really go as deep as you want. I'm not trying to go too deep because I noticed in certain areas I didn't fill it enough, so I don't want the fabric to show through under the yarn. Plus, I want to give myself a little bit of depth for the carving process. And I'm no expert at carving, so I'm not going to go into depth on it, but I just hold the clippers at a 45-degree angle and go through each line. Depending on the detail within your design, this process does take the longest. And I probably could have went deeper with the clippers to give it a more three-dimensional look, but like I said, I'm new to the carving process and there's a lot of curves within this design, and I didn't want to accidentally ruin it and have to start over. But now we can move on to the next step, and that's going to be cutting out the panels. And if you plan on making a backpack, you'll want to give yourself at least 1 inch of seam allowance outside of the pile. And we're not going to use all the extra fabric along the edges, but it's really nice to have during the sewing process. Now that we have our straps and our main front panel cut out, we can start to cut out the other panels for the backpack. I'll be doing a very basic design for this bag because I want the centerpiece to be the tufted area, so you'll need to cut one more outer fabric and two linings the same shape as your main panel. And I cut both of these new panels the same exact size as the main panel, including the seam allowance. I am using a mesh material for the back. This is optional. It's going to add a little bit of padding, but it's not necessary. For the zipper assembly, I sped up the process and already completed it, but it's very easy to make. All you need to do is cut 4 zipper panels, 4 side panels, sew the zipper panels to the zipper and the side panels to the end. And the goal is to make this assembly the same length as the top curved edge of the main panel. And with this being a simple design, you can actually make it longer and trim it up in later steps. You can also cut your zipper to any length, but that's going to reduce the size of the side panel. Next, you'll need to cut 4 more strap panels, 2 out of your outer fabric and 2 out of your mesh if you're using a mesh material. Again, we're tracing these to the exact size as the straps, and the mesh is going to add a little bit of padding for more comfort. Next, you'll need 1 to 2 bottom panels, and it really depends on the weight of your fabric. If you're using a thicker fabric, you can get away with 1 panel, and this will be cut to the size of the opening at the bottom. An easy way to figure this out is to cut it to the width of the main panel and also the width of the zipper assembly. I always like to add extra seam allowance and then I trim it down after I sew all the panels together. Lastly, you'll need 2 bottom strap assemblies with webbing sewn in between the layers. These will be placed on the bottom sides of the bag so we can clip our top straps to the bottom straps. There's other ways of doing this, but this is just the simplest way I could think of. And all you need to do is cut out a triangle, place your webbing in the center, fold it in half, and sew the top edge. And this tutorial is more about sewing through the pile and techniques on sewing through that rather than assembling the bag step by step. But don't worry, I will be going through the steps if you still want to see how to make the bag. For the first step, we're going to sew the zipper assembly to the main panel. So place the right side together, lining up the zipper assembly on the top curved edge of the main panel, and I'll be lining up the outside edge of the zipper assembly with the outside edge of the main fabric seam allowance. But we're not going to be sewing on the main panel seam allowance because that will expose the cloth. We're actually going to be sewing directly in the pile right along the edge. This is why it's best to have a test panel before you start sewing to make sure your machine can handle it. I found using a heavier weight needle at a longer stitch length took a lot of stress off the machine and made it easy to sew through. But like always, take your time with this step. You don't need to speed through it because if you do speed through it, you might break a needle or your machine. And also make sure you stay within that pile so when you flip the right sides out, you only see the fuzz up to the zipper assembly. I will say this powder adhesive was super easy to sew through. My machine had no issues with it. It's also stiff but flexible, making it perfect for a bag. It's almost like adding interfacing. So if you are looking for an adhesive to pair with the sewing process, I do recommend looking into the powder. You get a bunch with the order and you don't need to use a lot. But now we can place this front assembly off to the side and grab all the strap panels. The straps are super easy to make. All we're going to do is place our webbing directly in the center with right sides together. I recommend using about a half to 1 yard of webbing per strap, and you can always trim this down in later steps. Next, we can place our mesh panel over top with right sides together and follow it up with the outer fabric. From here, we're going to stitch the outside edge, leaving the top edge unstitched. And remember, we're stitching directly on the pile along the edge. Before we flip the right sides out, there's a ton of seam allowance, so we're going to snip the corners, snip the seam allowance to reduce some of the bulk. This will help the corners pop out, and also the sides will line up a little bit better. Find the opening at the top and pull the right sides out. Typically, when I'm making a strap, I would add a top stitch around the outside edge, but for this particular strap, it's very thick along those edges. So what I'm going to do instead is add a stitch directly down the center. This is going to help lock those layers together and prevent them from shifting around as you're wearing the bag. And don't worry about sewing directly on top of the pile. You don't actually see the stitch. You will see the indent, but you're not going to see the color of the thread. And feel free to add more than just one down the center if you want to change up the look or add extra strength. Now that we have the straps complete, we can grab the back main panel. If you are using a lining and an outer fabric, place the wrong sides together. Grab the straps, place them along the top edge, the bottom straps along the bottom, and then a webbing hook up top. Pin everything down, take it to your sewing machine, and stitch as close as you can to the outside edge. This will keep all the straps lined up as we sew this back panel to the opposite side of the zipper assembly. And that's exactly what we're going to do next. So grab the main front panel, open it up, and place the right sides together. Make sure the front and back panel are lined up at the center top, place a few pins, take it to your sewing machine, and stitch around the outside edge. And you'll want to sew at the same seam allowance you sewed the front panel. Since we left a ton of seam allowance on those tufted panels, we can actually trim it up in this step. After trimming the seam allowance, you're also going to want to trim the bottom and top strap panels flush with the new seam allowance. For this next step, we're going to clean up the raw edges for a nice clean final product. But before we do that, we want to cover up the back side of the tufted area. To do this, we're going to place the lining panel over top with the wrong sides together, and I'll be using a temporary adhesive to hold it in place. Apply your adhesive to the back side and place your lining over top. The main goal is to keep the lining panel in place while we add the bias tape. The bias tape will lock all the layers together and prevent that lining panel from popping out. I'll be using a double fold bias tape attachment. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. I go over this in other videos, so feel free to check that out. My bias tape feeds through the attachment and sews directly to the edge. Now we can move into the last step, and that's adding the bottom panel, so place the right sides together, lining up the outside edges. And I actually find it easiest to sew the front and back edges first and then the side edges. I think this technique makes those corners nice and square. After you finish sewing, add your bias tape in the same order and then flip the right sides out. I went ahead and added the hardware to the bag. I added one strap adjuster and one lobster clasp to each strap. And feel free to use whatever type of hardware that goes best with your design. But all in all, that's going to complete the backpack, and I really thought this tufting gun did a wonderful job. With my beginner level experience in tufting, it was very forgiving and easy to use. So I actually feel really confident I can pull this tufting gun out at any time and make a nice product. I don't have to worry about something going wrong or breaking. To wrap it up, it was a great experience, and I'm very excited about making more in the future. And there you have it. That's going to finish up the backpack. Overall, this was a super fun project. I am new to tufting. This was my first project with the tufting gun, and I can definitely say if you are looking to buy the H1, I highly recommend it. It was super easy to use for a beginner, and I bet it's even easier to use for someone that's more advanced. Not only was it easy, but it was so quick to set up the frame and get tufting within minutes. And it's actually easy to sew through all the yarn. I thought it was gonna be a little bit difficult, but I tested it out on all my machines, my industrial machines and my domestic. All the machines work super good, and it sewed through it very easily. So you don't just have to make a backpack, you can literally change any panel on your bag, whether that's a sling bag, fanny pack, purse, or even a hat. The possibilities are endless, so have some fun with it. Definitely tag me on Instagram at ProperFitClothing. I'd love to see what you come up with. And until then, I'm going to keep the videos coming at you, so I'll see you next time.